She dumped me 3 days before Christmas to take her ex to her family dinner. Here's what happened next. I need to tell you about December 2022, specifically the 22nd, because that's the day my entire life got flipped upside down in the most absurd way possible. My name's Marcus, I'm 27, and I work as a project manager for a mid-sized tech company in Columbus, Ohio. I've always been the type of person who plans things out. I have spreadsheets for my budget, color-coded calendars, and yeah, I even meal prep on Sundays. Some people think it's excessive, but honestly, it's just how I function best. Organization isn't a flaw, it's literally what pays my bills and keeps my life running smoothly. I'd been dating this woman, let's call her Vanessa, for about 2.5 years. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, and she seemed perfect for me at first. She was spontaneous, where I was structured. Artistic, where I was analytical. Everyone told us we balanced each other out. Looking back now, I realize balance was just code for you're going to exhaust yourself trying to accommodate someone who doesn't appreciate you. So there I was, 3 days before Christmas, sitting in my apartment that I'd decorated with lights, a tree, the whole 9 yards. I'd brought presents for Vanessa's entire family, her mom, her dad, her 2 younger brothers, even her grandmother. I'd spent weeks thinking about what each person would like, wrapped everything perfectly, and had them stacked neatly in my closet. I'd also been carrying around an engagement ring in my jacket pocket for about a month, waiting for the perfect moment during the holidays to propose. Vanessa came over that evening, and I immediately knew something was wrong. She had that look on her face, the one where she's biting her lower lip and won't make eye contact. She sat down on my couch and just came out with it. "I don't think this is working anymore, Marcus." "What are you talking about? What's not working?" She went into this whole speech about how I was too rigid and how my planning and organization made her feel suffocated. She said I was controlling because I like to have dinner reservations instead of just showing up at restaurants and waiting for hours. She complained that I scheduled date nights instead of being spontaneous. Never mind that every time we did something spontaneous that she wanted, I dropped everything to make it happen. Then came the real kicker. "I've been talking to Derek again," she said. Derek was her ex-boyfriend from college, the guy she dated for about a year before they broke up. She told me they'd ended things mutually and stayed friends, but she rarely mentioned him, so I'd never thought much about it. He's been really supportive lately, and he gets me in a way that, I don't know, Marcus, I just need someone who's more flexible. My brain was trying to process what she was saying. "Wait, so you're breaking up with me to get back with Derek?" "It's not like that," she said, but her eyes told a different story. "I'm bringing Derek to my family's Christmas dinner. They already know him, and it'll be less awkward than explaining why you're not there." I just stared at her. This woman, who I was planning to propose to in literally 3 days, was dumping me to take her ex-boyfriend to her family Christmas dinner? The same family dinner I was supposed to attend? The same family I'd bought presents for? "Get out," I said quietly. "Marcus, don't be like this. Get out of my apartment now." She tried to argue, tried to explain herself, but I wasn't having it. I walked to the door and held it open until she finally left. The moment I closed it behind her, I just stood there in my decorated apartment, surrounded by Christmas lights and wrapped presents, feeling completely hollowed out. I won't lie to you, the next 48 hours were rough. I called my best friend Ryan, who immediately came over with takeout and beer. Ryan's the kind of friend everyone needs. The guy who'll show up at midnight without questions and just sit with you through the worst moments. He listened to the whole story, shaking his head in disbelief. "Dude, she's insane," Ryan said. "You dodged a bullet. I mean, who does that 3 days before Christmas?" "Someone who's been planning it for a while," I said bitterly. "The stuff about me being too structured? That's just her excuse. She's been talking to Derek for who knows how long, probably waiting for the right time to bail." Ryan nodded. "So what are you going to do with all those presents?" I looked at the pile in my closet. Return what I can, donate the rest. Christmas Day itself was weird. My parents had flown to visit my sister in California, so I wasn't expected there. I'd planned to spend it with Vanessa's family, so suddenly I had nowhere to go. Ryan invited me to his family's house, and honestly, it saved me. His mom made this incredible honey-glazed ham, his dad told terrible jokes, and his little cousins ran around hyped up on candy canes. It was chaotic and warm and exactly what I needed. But here's where the story gets interesting. On December 28th, I decided I needed to get out of my apartment and do something productive. I went to this coffee shop I'd been meaning to try, a local place called Roasted Dreams that had just opened a few months earlier. I brought my laptop, figuring I'd work on some personal projects and maybe update my resume just to feel like I was moving forward. I was sitting there, focused on my screen, when someone knocked their cup off the table next to mine. Coffee went everywhere, including all over my laptop bag. I jumped up, and this woman started apologizing profusely, grabbing napkins and trying to help clean up. "I am so sorry," she said, her face bright red. "I'm the clumsiest person alive, I swear. Is your bag okay? Did anything get inside?" "It's fine," I said, checking my laptop. "Everything's waterproof. Seriously, don't worry about it." "At least let me buy you a replacement coffee," she insisted. "What were you drinking?" That's how I met Harper. Harper was 26, a graphic designer who worked remotely for a marketing agency. She was wearing paint-splattered jeans and an oversized sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She had this energy about her that was creative and vibrant, but also somehow grounded. We ended up talking for 3 hours that day, way longer than either of us planned. The crazy thing was, when I mentioned that I was a project manager and that I liked having systems for things, she lit up. "Oh my God, I wish I was more like that," she said. "My life is pure chaos. I have about 15 projects going at once, I forget appointments constantly, and I'm pretty sure I haven't done my meal planning in about 6 years. My friends keep telling me I need to date someone organized who can balance me out." We exchanged numbers, and I didn't think much of it at first. I figured we'd maybe grab coffee again as friends, nothing serious. I was still processing everything with Vanessa, and jumping into something new felt premature. But Harper and I kept texting. She'd send me pictures of her art projects, ask for advice on organizing her workspace, and we'd have these long conversations about everything from our favorite movies to our worst dating disasters. She made me laugh in a way I hadn't in months, maybe years. In mid-January, she asked if I wanted to help her organize a gallery showing she was putting together for local artists. "I'm drowning in logistics," she admitted, "and you're literally a professional at this stuff. I'll pay you in homemade lasagna." I helped her put together spreadsheets, create schedules, coordinate with the venue, and manage the RSVPs. She was amazed at how much smoother everything went with actual systems in place. Meanwhile, I got to see her creative process up close, and it was incredible. The way she could take a blank canvas and turn it into something meaningful, the way she saw beauty in random things, it reminded me that my structured approach to life wasn't wrong, it was just different. And different could complement each other rather than clash. The gallery showing was a huge success, and afterwards, Harper took me to dinner to thank me. "You know what's funny?" she said over pasta. "My ex used to complain that I was too disorganized. He said I needed to grow up and get my life together. But you never made me feel bad about it. You just helped. You made the chaos manageable without making me feel like chaos was a character flaw." "Your creativity isn't chaos," I told her. "It's just a different way of seeing the world. You don't need someone to fix you, Harper. You need someone who appreciates what you bring to the table and maybe helps with the parts that stress you out." She smiled at me in a way that made my chest feel warm. "Is this a date, Marcus? Because if it's not, I'd like it to be." "Yeah, let's call it a date." We took things slow at first, both of us being careful. Harper had been hurt before by someone who tried to change her, and I was still healing from Vanessa's betrayal. But as winter turned to spring, we found our rhythm. She'd drag me to spontaneous art shows and last-minute concerts, and I'd help her set up systems so she could focus on creating instead of constantly putting out fires. It worked. Meanwhile, Vanessa had been watching all of this unfold on social media. In March, she started texting me. First, it was casual stuff. "Hey, how are you?" And "I saw your post about that restaurant. It looks good." I ignored most of it. Then the texts got more direct. "I made a mistake, Marcus. Derek and I aren't working out. I miss what we had." I showed the messages to Harper, who raised an eyebrow. "What do you want to do?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm not interested in going backwards." But Vanessa didn't take the hint. In April, she showed up at my apartment building. I was coming home from the gym when I found her sitting in the lobby. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we really don't. Vanessa, it's been 4 months. You need to move on. You're with that designer girl now, right, Harper?" She had this edge to it. "She's not right for you, Marcus. She's too scattered, too unfocused. You need someone who what? Who takes advantage of how organized I am and then complains about it? Who lines up a backup plan before even breaking up with me? Vanessa, I'm happy. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. Please, leave me alone." She left that day, but the messages continued. She'd send long paragraphs about how she'd changed, how Derek was all wrong, how she realized what she had lost. I blocked her number. Then she created new accounts to message me on social media. I blocked those too. In June, things escalated. I was having dinner with Harper at a restaurant downtown when Vanessa walked in. I don't think it was a coincidence. Harper had posted a photo of her meal earlier, tagging the location. Vanessa came right to our table. "Marcus, please, just 5 minutes," she said, ignoring Harper completely. "You need to leave," I said firmly. "This is harassment at this point." I'm not harassing you, I just need you to understand. Harper stood up. She's about 5 feet 4 inches tall, but in that moment, she seemed much taller. He's asked you multiple times to leave him alone. You need to go. Now. Vanessa looked at her like she'd just noticed she was there. This is between me and Marcus. There is no you and Marcus. There's just you making a scene in a restaurant. Walk away. Security ended up escorting Vanessa out. She was shouting the whole way about how I was making a mistake and how Harper had stolen me from her. It was mortifying, but Harper handled it like a champion. I'm so sorry, I told her once we were alone again. Don't apologize for her behavior, Harper said. But Marcus, this is getting serious. You might need to think about a restraining order. She was right. After that night, I contacted a lawyer. The harassment had been documented. The texts, the social media messages, the showing up at my apartment and the restaurant. In July, I filed for a protective order. Vanessa was served with papers, and there was a hearing where I had to present all the evidence of her behavior. The judge granted the order. Vanessa was required to stay at least 300 feet away from me, my home, my workplace, and Harper. She was also ordered to stop all contact. You'd think that would be the end of it, but about a week after the order was granted, Harper and I were leaving a movie theater when Vanessa approached us in the parking lot. She'd clearly been waiting. Marcus, please, this is ridiculous, she started. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You're violating a court order right now. You need to leave immediately or I'm calling the police. You can't seriously be doing this. I called 911. Harper and I stayed near other people while we waited, and Vanessa eventually left before the police arrived. I filed a violation report anyway, and she ended up with a fine and a stern warning from the judge that any further violations would result in jail time. After that, things finally went quiet. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Vanessa had moved to Portland in September, supposedly for a fresh start. I didn't care either way, as long as she stayed out of my life. Meanwhile, Harper and I were building something real. We moved in together in August, combining her creative chaos with my organized systems in a way that somehow just worked. She had her art studio in the spare bedroom, and I had my home office. We'd cook dinner together most nights. She'd handle the creative aspects of the recipes, while I managed the timing and measurements. We traveled together, finding a balance between her spontaneous adventure-seeking and my need to at least have hotel reservations booked. In October of 2023, almost a year after Vanessa had dumped me, I proposed to Harper. Not with the ring I'd bought for Vanessa. I'd returned that months ago and picked out something totally different, something that actually suited Harper. I took her to the art museum where we'd had one of our first real dates, and I proposed in front of a painting she loved, a chaotic explosion of colors that somehow came together into something beautiful, kind of like us. She said yes immediately, tears streaming down her face. You know what's funny? She said, laughing and crying at the same time. A year ago, I'd just gotten out of a terrible relationship and was convinced I was better off alone. And then I spilled coffee all over your stuff and completely changed both our lives. Best accident ever, I said. We set the wedding date for June 2024. Harper wanted a summer wedding with an outdoor ceremony, and I was happy to handle all the logistics while she focused on the creative elements. She designed our invitations, picked out the flowers, and basically turned the whole thing into a work of art. I managed the vendors, the timeline, the budget, and made sure everything ran smoothly. The wedding was perfect. Ryan was my best man, naturally, and he gave a speech about how he'd seen me at my lowest point and was grateful to see me this happy. Harper's maid of honor talked about how we brought out the best in each other, how my structure gave her freedom to create, and her creativity reminded me to loosen up sometimes. During our first dance, Harper whispered, "Thank you for seeing me for who I am and loving me because of it, not despite it." "Right back at you," I said. I never heard from Vanessa again. Last I heard through the grapevine, she and Derek broke up again a few months after she moved to Portland, and she was bouncing between different relationships. I genuinely hope she found whatever she was looking for, but I'm grateful every single day that she broke up with me when she did, because here's what I learned from all of this. The right person doesn't just tolerate who you are, they celebrate it. The right person sees your strengths as strengths, not as flaws that need to be fixed or complained about. Harper never made me feel bad for being organized and structured. She appreciated those qualities because they made her life easier and gave her more space to do what she loved. And I never made her feel bad for being creative and spontaneous. I loved those qualities because they pushed me out of my comfort zone and reminded me that not everything needs to be planned to be beautiful. That Christmas, the one where I was supposed to get dumped and replaced, was one of the hardest days of my life, but it led me to where I am now, married to someone who actually values me, building a life together that's both stable and exciting. So if you're going through something similar, if someone made you feel like your good qualities are actually flaws, I want you to know that you deserve better. You deserve someone who looks at your spreadsheets and color-coded calendars and says thank you instead of you're too rigid. You deserve someone who meets your effort with equal effort, not with criticism and betrayal. And sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. It just takes some time to see it. Harper and I are planning to buy a house next year. I've already started a spreadsheet for potential neighborhoods. She's already planning how she'll turn the garage into an expanded studio. And somehow, impossibly, it all just works. That's the story. 3 days before Christmas 2022, my girlfriend dumped me to take her ex to her family dinner. 2 years later, I'm married to someone infinitely better, living a life I actually love, and I've never been more grateful for a breakup in my entire life. Related comments. The restraining order part hit different. I had to do the same thing with my ex last year, and people don't realize how exhausting the whole process is. Like, you're already dealing with the emotional aftermath of a bad breakup, and then you have to gather evidence, go to court, relive everything in front of a judge. It's draining. Props to you for actually following through, because a lot of people just try to ignore it and hope it goes away. Also, your wife sounds awesome for standing up to Vanessa at that restaurant. That takes guts. Comment. I'm probably in the minority here, but I feel like there's another side to this. Yeah, Vanessa handled it terribly with the timing and going back to her ex, that's obvious. But the whole too structured complaint isn't nothing. I dated someone like OP once, and while I appreciated the organization at first, it got exhausting always having to stick to schedules and plans. Sometimes you just want to be spontaneous without feeling like you're disrupting someone's entire system. Not excusing what she did, just saying maybe they genuinely weren't compatible and she just sucked at communicating it before it exploded. Comment. Wait, she moved to Portland in September 2023? I wonder if I know her, LOL. The city is full of people who moved here for a fresh start after burning bridges somewhere else. We joke that Portland is where Midwesterners come to reinvent themselves after messy breakups. Comment. Someone who plans weddings for a living, the fact that you two split the wedding tasks based on your strengths is actually relationship goals. You'd be shocked how many couples fight about literally everything during wedding planning because neither one wants to handle the boring logistics stuff. The ones who figure out how to divide and conquer based on what they're actually good at, those marriages tend to last. You found someone who appreciates what you bring instead of resenting it. That's the whole game right there. Comment. 3 days before Christmas is diabolical timing, though. Like she definitely knew for weeks and just waited until it was too late for you to make other plans. My sister did something similar to her boyfriend years ago, broke up with him right before Thanksgiving because she didn't want to lie through the holidays. But really, she just didn't want him at family dinner. Our whole family was pissed at her. He was a good guy, and she traded him for some loser she met at her gym. They lasted like 2 months. Some people really don't know what they have until it's gone. Write what you think about this situation. Also, if you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.